Good day everyone, I am Christine D. Bondame and I will discuss to you about the elements of a unit plan, the importance of a lesson plan, and the basic parts of a lesson plan. Right, so let us first discuss what are the elements of a unit plan. But first, what is a unit plan? A unit plan overarches all daily lesson plans with connections among key topics, concepts, skills, and desired outcomes. So there are 17 elements that we should be considered when developing a unit plan. These are the elements that we should be considered when developing a unit plan. First, a principal purpose. We must set our purpose. This provides us direction and organization that helps us teachers and also our students to achieve academic gains within a particular time period. Next, main topic or topics, concepts, essential skills to be developed. In here, we must identify all of the content that needs to be taught and the skills that the student must be developed upon the completion of the unit. Next, academic goals and desired outcomes. In developing a unit plan, it should identify the goals in the form of what student should know and develop or what student should be able to accomplish upon the completion of a particular period. Next, academic standards that directly relate to the subject areas. One of the most effective guides for instruction when they focus on the essential knowledge and skills in a subject area. Next, cross-curricular connections, methods to make the learning relevant throughout the unit. The teacher will address the teaching methods that he will be used. This is an opportune moment to consider the special needs of the students in the classroom. By planning ahead, teachers can include strategies to help ensure the success of every student. Next, big ideas that link to additional big ideas to increase understanding. Big ideas can help both the teacher and students. It can help teachers so they can clarify whether and why pieces of content should be taught. It can help students also to link and see purposes in classroom activities. They can help them construct understanding and are more coherent and richly linked. Next, past learning that links to present learning and leads to future learning. New learning is constructed on prior knowledge. So, it should emerge out of the student's past experiences and should lead to broader interest. Next, an understanding of students' current knowledge, questions to guide thinking each day and from day to day, questions based on recurring unit ideas or themes, clear expectations for learning of all students, vocabulary to study and focus on, with multiple exposures over time to ingrain learning, a determination of appropriate level of proficiency to meet desired outcomes, assessments for before, during, and after lessons, and the overall unit. So assessments are very useful for us teachers to determine whether the students have met the learning objectives. So, assessment before, so pwede kang gumamit ng diagnostic test to assess whether the student recall their previous lesson. Most especially if the new topic is connected to the past discussion. Then during, you can involve recitations or activities. So you can assess whether the students adopt the learning that you want to pass on to them. And after the lessons, these are now the formative assessment. So pwede mo nang this evaluates the students' learning pagkatapos ng lahat na ng discussion to assess whether naintindihan or not, and then to evaluate whether the students have met the learning objectives. How do I know if the lesson plan worked? A lesson plan is your guide in teaching a lesson. An important part of developing a lesson plan is assessing whether the lesson worked. So there are 4 questions that you might consider in assessing your lesson plan, whether it works or not. So first, did you match the new information and supporting materials to the learner's skill level? Did any if the learners struggle with the information? What could you have differently? Number 2, did you use activities that match the level of the learners? Did any of the learners have difficulty understanding or completing the activities? What could you have done differently? And number 3, did you plan enough activities for the lesson? Was there enough time for each activity? What could you have done differently? As you answer the questions listed above and other questions that arise, you assess the outcome of the lesson. Make notes and incorporate the changes into the lesson plan. So, of course, the simplest way to check if the lesson plan was effective is quite simply to see if your students retained the information that you taught them. While this is not the perfect metric for measure the success or failure of our lesson plan, after all, they may memorize material for the test and then forget it after. It will give you a solid start in figuring out whether your lesson plan is a success in getting information across, which is, after all, your ultimate goal. We will discuss what is a lesson plan and the importance of a lesson plan. What is a lesson plan? A lesson plan is the teacher's blueprint, a statement of achievement to be realized, and specific means by which these are to be attained as a result of the activities engaged in day-to-day under the guidance of the teacher. Lesson plan is a teacher's guide for facilitating a lesson. It typically includes the goal or what students need to learn, how the goal will be achieved, or it is the method of delivery and procedure, and a way to measure how well the goals was reached. So all of the teachers requires a lesson plan that is thoughtfully prepared regardless of our ability, experience, or what field of training involves. So there are 10 importance of a lesson plan. So the importance of a lesson plan is emphasized by the need for clarity and comprehension regarding how the entire learning process will be handled, as well as how students can understand and store the knowledge that is being passed on to them. The 10 importance of a lesson plan. So first is, a pupil's educational growth depends on the selection of the subject matter, activities, experiences, and methods adapted to his interests, needs, abilities, and level of maturity. So, lesson plan enables us teachers to know the most desirable types of teaching procedures and assessments. Of course, the wise teacher who plans his or her lesson well gets optimum results in his or her teaching. Number 2 includes framing objectives and choosing subject matter, materials, and evaluation techniques. So a teacher must prepare and organize all of these things to have successful teaching and learning process. Number 3, it involves foreseeing what is likely to happen and choosing experiences that will change for the better. So foresight contributes to good teaching, which incidentally is the aim of every teacher. A lesson plan stimulates the teacher to be creative. Okay, number 4, it serves as a guide to the apprentice teacher. When we say apprentice teacher, ito yung mga baguhan pa lamang. So, lesson planning is very important, especially to those beginner, because sometimes apprentice teacher may forget the subject matter or its sequential organization. So, lesson plan is very essential tool and serve as a reminder. It must be properly planned and prepared to achieve specified learning outcomes. And number 5, planning prevents waste of time that usually accompanies organized or haphazard teaching. So a lesson plan helps the teacher to be systematic and orderly. It enables us teacher to function more effectively in the classroom. This helps us to make sure that every moment spent in class is used to teach meaningfully. Number 6, it prevents wandering away from the subject matter by making the teacher conscious of what he has to accomplish for the day. So there are a chance question may easily lead the discussion away from the topic, but the lesson plan can always direct the teacher back to his lesson. Alright, so number 7, it gives feeling of security, especially to the beginning teacher. Having a lesson plan that has been carefully constructed can boost our confidence and maximizes the possibility of having a purposeful learning sessions with our students whenever we enter the classroom. And number 8, the principle of self-activity to the learning of both teachers and pupils. If learners learn by doing, so do teachers. By making lesson plans, the teacher learns to be more effective teacher in as much as a good preparation ensures good instruction. And number 9, I should say, are of use not only to the teacher but also to the principals and supervisors. Through lesson plans, principals and supervisors can trace what the teacher has taught and what the class covered. They come to know whether the teacher covered enough topics. So they can also determine his efficiency to a certain extent, since his lesson plans will show his choice of subject matter and methodology. And lastly, number 10, past lesson plans will be used to a substitute teacher. A substitute teacher will frame future lessons based on what the class has already covered. So, hindi lang yung mga substitute teacher ang pwedeng makagamit ng dati ng mga nagawang lesson plan. So, kung pareho lang din naman yung tuturuan mo next school year, pwede mo na naman ulit itong gamitin. So, pwede mo lang siyang i-improve yung mga learning activities na nasa lesson plan. So, those are the 10 importance of lesson plan. Now, we will proceed to the basic parts of a lesson plan. First is objectives. Provides goal to be attained, give direction to the class discussion, and call for what outcomes. Learning objectives are statements that describe what students are expected to achieve as a result of instruction. If students don't know what they should be able to do at the end of the class, then it would be difficult for them to get there. Learning objectives address this problem by explicitly defining the expected learning and making the learning process goal-directed, and they should focus on student performance. This means that they should focus exclusively on what students should know and do at the end of the lesson, and not just on behaviors of the teacher or the procedure of learning. Number 2 is the subject matter. The specific subject matter and its sources, textbooks, library references should be stated in the lesson plan. Next is materials. It is the necessary aids to teaching and should include in the lesson plan. It includes teaching and advices. So list everything needed to deliver your lesson. For example, when you are using PowerPoint presentation, visual aids, activity packets, grading rubrics, all the materials that you need in delivering your lesson. Next is the procedure. This includes both teacher and pupil activity in the detailed lesson plan. So the procedure is the body of the lesson plan. This is the ways in which you'll share information with the students and the methods you'll use to help them assume a measure of mastery of that material. So there are 3 stages. So first is the motivation, next is the development of the lesson, and lastly the closing or the assessment. So next is the evaluation. It is a measurement of the pupils if they really understand the lesson. So when making assessments or evaluation, it should be aligned with the learning objectives. It is a measurement if the students have met the learning objectives. So for example, if your lesson objective was about understanding a concept, then the students must complete an activity by explaining or giving examples using that concepts. And lastly, assignment. A good assignment ensures a good recitation because it tells definitely what is to be done, how to be done, and why it must be done. So assignment, this component is all about the continuous improvement, identifying gaps in learning, and building stronger lessons in the future. So those are the 6 basic parts of a lesson plan.